actually a pretty good matchup against the Cleveland Browns. And with that, we welcome you to a brand new edition of NFL Total Access. I'm Mike Yam. We got a cast of characters that's going to be amazing. Legitimately excited for today's show. Mike Robb, Tom Pelissero, Omar Ruiz, Stacey Dales, Bridget Condon, all still to come. But today, business is the theme of the show. The move of Trey Lance, Dak Prescott, he's going to be joining us. The Patriots making some shrewd roster moves. Jonathan Taylor watch and a Rams rebuild. But first, with 9 days before the season kicks off, it might be the biggest football business story that isn't getting nearly enough attention.
You know, he knows what he did on the field. He knows how valuable of a player he is, and he knows he'll be compensated for it. So I don't think he has a worry in his mind.
We have to strike the right mix of urgency. I don't like this. I don't like not having one of our best players here. We've got a really good track record that I'm proud of as a group of having our players in.
Is there any frustration that you guys have appreciated right now?
No, it's going pretty much exactly how I expected it to go. So, no, it's kind of just been exactly what I thought.
You expected it to go this long?
Yeah, I had a feeling it would.
You can imagine this team not having him on the team, saying if this thing goes on into the regular season.
Oh, yeah, I can imagine anything. Doesn't mean I like that picture. Of course not. You guys know how we feel about Nick, and we all know how good of a player he is. So hopefully we can come to terms soon and get him here as fast as possible.
This is the guy that addresses our team every Saturday and just gives his wisdom. We miss him and looking forward to the day he's coming back.
Just want to sack the quarterback, dude.
Yeah, and he's actually really good at that, but he's just not with his team right now. Our Super Bowl champion, Michael Robinson, NFL Network insider Tom Pelissero, and my guy, Omar Ruiz, they're with us. Tom, I will start with you. Nick Bosa, this deal, why isn't it done?
Well, Mike, you heard Kyle Shanahan alluding a week or so ago to the fact that they knew this was going to be a protracted process, and you said earlier this is a story that's not getting enough attention. Well, part of that is Nick Bosa has a very experienced agent and a tough negotiator in Brian Arald, who does not believe in negotiating through the media. Now, obviously, when Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch go to the podium, they have to answer questions. They were on the same page when both were asked about the possibility of trading Nick Bosa. It was an emphatic no. And listen, this is, in all likelihood, going to be the biggest deal for a defensive player, the biggest deal for a non-quarterback in NFL history. Big deals like this take time. There are still 9 days until the regular season begins, though you also have to take into account when a player like Nick Bosa has not practiced through the course of training camp here, we are starting to come up on that point where, Omar, you would not anticipate if this extends into next week that Nick Bosa is going to be ready to go week one.
Yeah, he is the reigning defensive player of the year. When I spoke to John Lynch in the early days of training camp, to your point, Tom, he said that he expected a difficult negotiation, but felt like it was a matter of time. The North Star throughout the negotiation has been that Nick Bosa wants to be a 49er, according to Lynch, and that the 49ers, of course, want Nick Bosa to be a 49er for a very long time. Now, John Lynch did say that this has gone on longer than even he anticipated. Of course, Kyle Shanahan saying that it is still in the ballpark of when these things get done historically, so it didn't sound like it's past his expectation. He said they've been working tirelessly on this potential deal, Rob. And of course, you heard Shanahan say that, does he imagine a scenario that they're without Nick Bosa week one in Pittsburgh? And he said, yeah, he has to. He's the head coach. As if every player, there is always a scenario that they couldn't be there because of injury or whatever else. But like he said, doesn't like to imagine that scenario and whatever potential outcome that might be, Mike.
Omar, let's just be honest about this entire situation. The San Francisco 49ers can't win a championship without Nick Bosa being on that football field. I mean, you mentioned that he's the reigning defensive player of the year. He had 18.5 sacks last year, 48 quarterback hits with another 73 pressures. All tops in the National Football League. And again, I've been a running back in the National Football League, and I've sat in offensive meeting rooms. In every single offense that the San Francisco 49ers go up against, when Nick Bosa is playing, the offensive coordinator walks in the big team meeting room. He may say a joke or whatever, then he gets serious. He circles Nick Bosa on the board and say, this guy cannot wreck our game plan. That's just how important that guy is to that team. So I know there's a lot of high expectations for the 49ers. But none of that happens unless Nick Bosa is on the football field.
Yeah, once again, an absolute stud. You guys all well chronicle what his production has been on the football field. I still think about this team defense first, and without your best defensive player, potential problems there. Omar, appreciate the insight that you brought to the conversation. Tom, I want to shift gears, though, on what's happening in the quarterback room in New England. Can you sort of set the stage on some roster moves that I think got a couple eye rolls from a few of us in the building?
Well, Mike, yesterday the Patriots released every quarterback on their roster not named Mac Jones. That was certainly, you would think, a calculated gamble by Bill Belichick and company that they would have the opportunity to get those players back. And they ended up being right. Bailey Zappi had options. He had 7 other teams, I was told, offer him spots on their practice squads. But he decided to go back to New England, where he was 2-0 as the starter, filling in for Mac Jones a year ago. They also let go of Malik Cunningham. He, too, cleared waivers. He also is back, and we'll see how they continue to evolve that hybrid role with Cunningham, the former Louisville star, playing both quarterback and wide receiver. Still a possibility as well. The Patriots make another addition to that room. Historically, when you've looked at the way that they've set things up there, they've often had a veteran quarterback as one of the backups. So keep an eye here, Mike Robb, as they continue to set this roster in the coming days here. Maybe New England not done just yet.
Yeah, Tom, and I think Bill said something earlier today, like everybody's roster in the National Football League will change before opening day, before they actually go out there. But I look at this move as a couple of different things. Number one, Bill Belichick understands like those guys will probably be able to come back, and I think he just used it as an opportunity to get some more offensive linemen, get some more roster spots, and then when he needs those quarterbacks on week-by-week basis, he can get them. That's number one. Number two, the reason why I think Malik Cunningham and Bailey Zappi decided to come back, maybe they understand that this is probably the closest opportunity for them to actually see the field. Who knows exactly how Mac Jones did throughout training camp, and now they do have a capable offensive coordinator. So for me, I believe whoever goes out to quarterback for the New England Patriots, they'll be a better version of themselves than we saw this offense in 2022.
Yeah, I know you've loved up Bill O'Brien and what he brings to this team's offense. Cunningham, by the way, flashed in the preseason, so clearly a nice versatile piece. Bucky Brooks, it's been well chronicled. He's been on the set with us talking about his versatility and what he can bring to the table. But there's been a lot of news, and Tom, I know your phone's been blowing up on this guy, the Colts, and their running back, Jonathan Taylor. They're stuck right now on this contract situation. Taylor will start the season on the PUP list. Ankle injury, it's presented a little bit of an issue. He's going to miss the first 4 games of the season, but this is more than just an injury. It's about a relationship between a star and a club and a contract extension that hasn't happened. Colts GM Chris Ballard had one word to describe the situation.
I mean, the situation, I'm not going to sit here and give you some rosy picture like, oh, this is just, everything's okay. No, it sucks. It sucks for the Colts. It sucks for Jonathan Taylor. And it sucks for our fans. It does. And it's where we're at, and we've got to work through it. And we're going to do everything we can to work through it. Relationships are repairable. They're repairable.
This is like I want him on my squad. I get it. Tom, what do we need to know about Jonathan Taylor and this situation?
Mike, let's start with the logistics of what happened yesterday. The Colts had given Jonathan Taylor and his agent up until 4 p.m. Eastern time to find a trade partner that would execute not only a new contract for Jonathan Taylor, but also give the Colts what they wanted in a trade. No deal was done by that point. My understanding was no deal was close at that point, so they had to make a roster move, and they decided to move Jonathan Taylor to the reserve PUP list, which means he is out for at least the first 4 games. Now, let's talk about the ankle here. It bothered Jonathan Taylor throughout the course of last season. He underwent off-season surgery. He went just a few weeks ago and got several days of treatment off-site on that same ankle. Now, you certainly can sit back and also say if Jonathan Taylor had been paid or if he had an opportunity to play on the team that he wanted to play for, maybe that ankle would come around a little bit more quickly here. But rather than going to the mats here, Mike Robb, the Colts could have said, you know what? We're activating you. Get on the field and we're going to start finding you. They didn't do that here. Is reconciliation possible? It doesn't feel like that from Jonathan Taylor's side at this point, but as timelines move forward, even in a complicated situation like this, your options begin to narrow. We know Jonathan Taylor can't sit out the entire season because his contract would toll, nothing precluding trade talks and contract talks from continuing here. So we'll see in the coming days and weeks exactly where things go here.
Yeah, bro. I agree with you, Tom. I believe that if Jonathan Taylor was paid that ankle injury, that ankle would be feeling a little bit better today. You know what I'm saying? Maybe he'd be activated and he wouldn't be on the PUP list. But Chris Ballard, I think he hit a note there. He said it sucks for the team, it sucks for Jonathan Taylor, but it also sucks for Chris Ballard, right? And I believe it sucks for Chris Ballard, and he's talking about relationships and all of those things because the owner has already came out and said, you know, things along the lines of we're not going to be letting Jonathan Taylor go, and we really don't want to, you know, necessarily pay that position. So to me, it puts Chris Ballard in a really unique situation, especially because he has to be the one go out there and answer these questions. Now, I'm going to my guy right here, Jonathan Taylor, and I know he's probably listening. I know he's watching Total Access. Running backs need to go about this a little bit differently. I understand saving yourself, and I understand you don't want to take hits and all of those things, but you are a runner. And Tom, to your point, as a runner, we can't sit out an entire year. Why not go in there, continue to show that you're one of the top backs in the league, and then, you know, after the game, when there's time to talk business after you had a 100-yard game, yeah, then maybe you say, my hammy, I'm probably not going to be available next week. I could if I had some more money in my pocket, but I'm not, so I don't know. You know, play a little bit more of that game as opposed to completely sitting out.
Tom,
it makes perfect sense from Jonathan Taylor's perspective here. He's due about $4.3 million this year. He envisions himself as a $12, $14, $15 million per year running back. But again, at some point, you're going to have decisions to make somewhere along the line here. Jonathan Taylor, when it comes right down to it, is going to get paid at some point, even if he got franchise tag, which Chris Ballard has never done with any player in Indianapolis. That tag is going to be upwards of $10 million next year. And we've already seen a precedent set because Saquon Barkley got incentives on top of the tag, because Josh Jacobs got multiple millions in base pay on top of the tag. That franchise tag has been reset for running backs here, not by a CBA renegotiation or some unionizing, because guys withheld their services, at least in Josh Jacobs' case, and maybe moved it forward a little bit here. None of that resolves the fact that right now there seem to be lines drawn in the sand, both from the Colts' perspective as well as Jonathan Taylor's perspective. You could take this as an olive branch from Chris Ballard right now. Is there some type of medium? Maybe somewhere down the line, but it doesn't feel imminent right now.
I tell you guys one thing. Anthony Richardson needs to understand his job is a lot easier if that horse is behind him running the football, okay? So I'd go up to Chris Ballard's office and Jim Irsay's office and say, hey, bro, if y'all want me to be the guy here, if you want me to be the best version of myself, can we get my running back in here? To me, I think that may bring the sides closer together.
Yeah.